coaches and therapists, we have 3 processes for you here that are going to help you de-trigger yourself and your clients. And one of the things you're going to love about these processes is the range. So anything from big T trauma to little T trauma. And these processes are so effective. And I can really say that because I've seen them work in almost every coaching or therapy context. I've seen them firsthand at an inpatient mental health facility, watching people get over really severe trauma, abuse, PTSD, surprisingly quickly. Yeah. And I've seen it work with people who, they go into a fight or flight state when giving a presentation, for example, at work.
Yeah.
This will work for you or for your clients anytime you encounter an unwanted, habitual, emotional response. So Raven is going to go ahead and tee us up with the outline for what you're going to learn today.
Yeah, it's so good. So we're going to actually go through the definitions of what a trigger is and what a trigger isn't. We're going to go through the 3 processes for you, and then you'll get to experience the 3 processes. And then there's a download below so you can actually have the whole bundle of what we did and use it for yourself or use it with your clients.
So obviously, right? Exercise adult discernment here, consult your mental health professionals. Yeah. Yes. If you're dealing with some severe PTSD, trauma, these types of things, it might be more appropriate for you to consult with a professional first. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're trusting your judgment as an adult to watch this video and use these techniques responsibly.
Standard definition: triggers are stimuli that ignite the PTSD cycle of trigger, reaction, re-experience, and avoidance.
So while that's typically the way that people talk about triggers, in this video and in our trainings in general, we expand the definition to include any habitual response that happens unconsciously, automatically in the nervous system. So with us, not all triggers are bad. So we're going to use these processes. Processes? Is that a? Yeah. Processes to work through quote unquote bad triggers.
Yeah.
But when we're done, those very contexts that used to trigger the unwanted response are going to generate a new response in the nervous system.
Same maneuver, different result.
Yeah. So the 3 processes, each of which can actually be used as a standalone intervention, but you'll get best results when you put them together, like we did in the audio, are the alpha sequence, reconsolidating memories, and priming resource states. Starting with the alpha sequence. The first process, the alpha sequence, is extremely helpful for a number of reasons. One is it creates the exact opposite of a triggered nervous system. Triggered is a fight or flight response, typically, right? So you'll get somebody who's angry or pissed off or worried or anxious or hypervigilant or whatever the fear or fight response or freeze response is. Okay, that response is very difficult to do therapy or coaching when client is in that place.
Right.
So the alpha sequence does 2 things for us. A, it creates a relaxed nervous system, which is exactly the opposite of the triggered response.
Yeah.
And B, it prepares the mind body to shift and create changes. And it does so for a variety of reasons. One, the relaxation response itself is healing and beneficial.
Absolutely.
2, this alpha sequence increases the amount of alpha brainwave activity in the mind. So when this happens, so you can think of brainwaves in the same way that there are electrical currents, right? When your brain is in high beta, okay, you're cutting off access to the other information stored at different brainwaves. So if you think about going to Germany or Italy and you have to get an adapter to translate your plugs, right? Different currents can store different types of information. This is why meditation, this is why hypnotherapy, this is why psychedelic assisted, this is why all these different altered states allow us to create changes, is because they allow us to go into an alpha brainwave place. And what's brilliant about this is we're doing it in a relaxation response.
Yeah.
So the body's going to stay nice and relaxed as we work through the various issues that you're coming here to work
Absolutely.
through. Yeah,
Yeah. I'd like to add to that also. So
please.
I've taught meditation for over 25 years, and people can use this in place of meditating. And
Yeah.
it's so much easier to make into a lifelong habit, and the impact is much greater.
Yeah, and I'm gonna run off that because as someone who's tried to meditate, I never
Yeah.
made it as far as becoming a meditation teacher. But the thought of like sitting there and shutting off my thoughts, forget about it.
It's not,
Whereas,
yeah.
yeah, whereas the alpha sequence is a set of embodied things you do with
Yeah.
your body
Yeah.
that will slow down your thoughts as a
Yeah.
result of doing the
Yeah.
sequence.
Yeah.
So it's
And
brilliant.
it'll so natural, and you take it with you everywhere you go.
Love it.
Yeah.
So, like we mentioned earlier, it's a set of embodied processes, and
Yeah.
you can think of going in this order and sequence. Now,
Yes.
we're going to teach you each one of the physical maneuvers,
Yeah.
and then we're going to run you through the chain, starting at the top every time, because
Yeah.
your nervous system learns through repetition.
Yeah.
So if you watch and you listen and you follow along, you're actually going to create the response in your nervous system. So when you do the first step, your
Yeah.
whole body will run through it. So we are taking our time with this, but it's deliberate.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
So just to give you the whole overview of it,
Yeah.
right? We have peripheral vision,
Yeah.
relaxing the jaw,
Yeah.
relaxing the back of the tongue,
Yeah.
releasing tension from the body,
Yeah.
and then creating shifts in your breathing.
Yeah.
And now we're going to go ahead and put the whole thing together for you from the top. So I'm going to go ahead and guide Raven through the first step so you get a
Yeah.
good look at this. You can see from multiple perspectives here. You
Yeah.
can listen and watch how I'm cueing it, or you can follow along, and that's probably the better thing to do your first time through.
Yep.
Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to invite Raven to bring her hands up above eye level, right? And her
Yep.
chin is going to stay level. And look how she's looking up with her eyes. Her chin is level and she's gazing up with her eyes, and she's focusing on one spot in between your fingertips.
Yep.
And as you're focusing on one spot in between your fingertips, that's foveal vision, right? It's associated with higher beta brainwave activity. And all
Mm-hmm.
she's going to do now in a moment is slowly allow her hands to swivel out to the sides of her head as her gaze expands. So
Yep.
her gaze is going to fill to expand the space in between her hands. And her hands are right at the edge of her peripheral vision.
Yep.
So she can be aware of all that space in between her peripheral vision.
Yep.
Yeah. And as you're in that peripheral vision, there's a tendency for the nervous system to start to relax now.
Yep.
And then she's going to put her hands down, and that's the first step. Super easy.
So good.
Yeah. So that's peripheral vision. So
Yep.
you start the alpha sequence by going into peripheral vision.
Yep.
And the next step is thank you, Zoom. The next step is you're just going to relax the jaw, right?
Yep. And it's
Yep.
natural and easy to do.
Mhm.
You can just allow the jaw to drop just enough that you feel that micro yawn beginning to kick in. And you may or may not feel that, but you can just let it just relax like that.
Yeah. Good. Awesome. So let's put them together.
Yep.
Yeah. So Raven, you want to run me through this?
Yep. So first
Okay.
we're going to just move our hands
Mhm.
right up above, right about there. So I can be in the screen with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then go ahead and focus on a spot right between those fingers so your eyes are up. Your chin is nice and steady. Your focus is right between the fingers, and then you're just going to gently begin to move the hands out
Yeah.
to the sides as
Aware
you're
of all that space in between your hands,
hands, and you're
relaxing that jaw.
aware of all that space and the jaw relaxing.
Yeah. And as your hands come down, go ahead and put that micro yawn in your jaw, itty
Yeah,
bitty yawn,
just a little.
and stay in peripheral vision here. So as you're in that peripheral vision, you're aware of all the space in the room.
Yeah.
You got a micro yawn going inside your jaw.
Yeah.
And your nervous system, I'm already there
I'm
personally.
already
Like I
there
feel,
too.
Yeah.
It's just this subtle relaxation that
Yeah.
begins to go through the body. And the more you become familiar with it, the more you'll enjoy being with it.
Yeah. So that's the first two, right? So we have
Yeah.
peripheral vision, we
Yep.
relax the jaw. And the
Yep.
next thing you're going to want to do is relax the back of the tongue.
Yeah.
And it's again, it's one of these natural hardwired responses. When we're running from a tiger, your
Yeah.
tongue is not relaxed. It's just not the
You're like,
case. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and run the whole sequence again.
Yep.
Hands are going to come up.
Yep.
Find that spot on your fingers,
Chin nice and level.
right? Go
Moving
wide,
handed gaze.
peripheral vision. As your hands come down, you become
Yeah.
aware of all the space around you as you get that nice micro yawn in your jaw.
Yeah. That soft jaw. And
So
then the back of your tongue. Just
can
wait.
relax.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people, I don't know if Raven likes this. Some people like to imagine a paperweight on the
Yep.
back of their tongue.
I love to have a little weight on the back of the tongue so
Mhm.
that it just stays in place.
Yeah. So from here, deliberately
Yes.
start to release tension from your body. So anywhere where you can relax your forehead, your jaw, your shoulders, your chest, your back, glutes, thighs, feet,
Yeah.
relax your entire body here.
Yeah.
And as you're releasing all the tension, the more your body releases tension, there's a tendency for your mind to relax as well.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Now we're going to make a subtle shift, and this is the last piece to the alpha sequence.
Yeah.
We're going to make a subtle shift and change in your breathing. Now, the key to this is not to force it,
Yeah.
but I want you to notice how much you can allow your inhales to get a little bit deeper, perhaps so slightly deeper that you might not even notice it.
Yeah.
And your exhales to get slightly longer.
Yeah.
So now, typically at this point in the process, I will have closed my eyes, and we're not, because we're recording this Zoom for you.
Yes.
But if you're listening, go ahead and close your eyes.
Yeah.
And even with your eyes closed, you can be aware of all the space around you. You can
Yeah.
have a nice relaxation in your jaw,
Yeah.
the back of your tongue. Relax all the tension out of your body. Invite a slightly deeper inhale and just a subtle elongation on the exhale. And then when you're ready, just go ahead and bring as much of this relaxation back with you to the rest of your day as you'd like.
That's right.
Okay? So that's the alpha sequence. And I mean, even running, guiding everybody else through it, I feel like I just got out of a spa or something,
Yeah.
you know?
Much more relaxed.
Yeah. And, you can put all these things together so quickly when you get good at it.
Yeah.
When I remember to do this, and it's an ongoing practice to remember to do this, that as soon as something gets to you, you can go right into that peripheral vision. I won't let people know I'm yawning, but I'll just like that.
Oh, my girl.
Yeah. And then right there, you're back into the space.
Yeah. And the
So
body kicks it in.
yeah, kicks it in. So the reason we chain it for you that way is because when you follow the sequence, right? So for example, those of you who download the audio
Yeah.
and you do this enough times, your nervous system will chain them together, just like an automatic triggered response. So the alpha, the peripheral vision will trigger the
Yes.
relaxation, the whole thing for you.
Yes. And that's
Yeah.
why we expanded the definition so that you can see how to use
Yeah.
it for good.
Yeah. Now, we've set the stage, right? So client comes in, they're nervous, they're hypervigilant, they're this, they're that. You run them through the alpha sequence,
Yeah.
they're chilling. Okay. You're chilling. We're all chilling. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we want to go to the next step of the process, which is reconsolidating memories.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is actually an extremely exciting piece of research that's been coming out. And every coach or therapist needs to know about this research. You need to be shouting it from your roof, from the tip of your tongue. Go to, I think if you Google researchandrecognition.org, they're in their 5th or 6th replication study.
Yeah.
And what they're seeing consistently for PTSD is an over 90, it might even be 95%, over 90% success rate for extinguishing PTSD symptoms, not diminishing. So those of you who are trained know that most of the evidence-based modalities we have reduce symptoms, make them manageable, et cetera, et cetera. This is extinction of symptoms, and the process is comfortable. So it's not re-stimulating the response. It's an extremely comfortable process. And what's great about it is it works with any negative emotion, any intense unwanted emotion. So this is one of those tools to have for yourself when you had a tough day, when you consistently get triggered in your relationship or work with that one client, or, you know,
you're just having a bad hair day, let's face it.
Let's face it, right? You know,
whatever you need.
Whatever. And then the other thing is, when you do have clients who have trauma, this is an exquisite process to use. So it is one of the most versatile tools to have in your pocket. Okay. And the way it works is it utilizes the fact that your nervous system equates distance with intensity. So I know that you've had this experience where you're talking to someone who's new or foreign, or they had too much garlic.
Yes.
And they get too close to you, like they get in your face. Right. And and then you get a feeling, right? And like, okay, he's kind of in my space, right? Now he's really in my space. And the closer that unwanted stimulus is, the more intense the emotional response. And what do people do?
They unconsciously and automatically back up.
Back up, dude. Right? If we're on a safari, and I saw, because I'm a child of the internet, and I'm watching these people in safari, right? And they're in the truck, and there's lions hundreds of feet off in the distance, right? And they have binoculars, and they're looking, and it's the predators all the way over there, and everybody's like having a good time in this truck. And then the camera pans, and then you see one lion creeping around. It's an open air caravan, and it's right up here, right? There's a big difference in the nervous system between predator here, predator there. And the same thing is true in reverse. So when you think about people that you have a really warm response to, a good friend or a family member or something like that, right? We want to bring those people closer, right? When you have your dog or your cat and you bring them close to you, the intensity of that warmth and connection feels more solid. Yeah. So we want to use this deliberately. And when you find people who naturally get over fears, who naturally get over traumas, what they do in their mind when they think about the thought or the event or whatever the triggering stimulus is, there's a tendency for them to visually push it away. So all we're going to do is do this on purpose. We're going to go run through the alpha sequence, get us nice and relaxed. Then we're going to warm up the visual system in your brain. So you have a couple reps of moving things away from you internally. And then we're going to run you through moving away whatever the unwanted thought or whatever it is was. Now, Raven, in your opinion, should people be doing this exercise for the first time with the worst thing that's ever happened to them in their life?
I don't recommend it. So we'll use a little wise mind here and a little bit of
discernment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
About if you've got some stuff that is really active or hasn't been processed yet, don't pull that up as your example.
No. Start with the guy who cut you off in traffic.
That, or like somebody maybe put the toilet paper roll on upside down and that's not how you want it. Something that's just bugging you a little bit.
Yeah. I will admit, because I've done this a lot and I've had professionals run me through this,
Yeah.
now if I come across a really intense memory, I have done it enough that I can push it away.
Yeah.
But it's because I've had exquisite professionals. I've had people help me with it, right?
Yes.
So don't be a hero. That being said,
And
over
Sean,
time, please
yeah,
go
and
ahead.
I add
Yeah, yeah.
one more thing to that is that it is a maneuver that as your brain starts to recognize what you're doing, it's going to start to do it automatically for you as well. So it will get easier and you'll get better at it through time. So be patient with yourself.
Right on. So let's do it externally first to
Yep.
warm up the visual system. Yeah.
Yep.
So wherever you are watching this video, I'm going to ask you to look off the screen. So look up somewhere and
Yep.
just notice something right in front of your face. So maybe your hand, for example, you could look at your hand
Yep.
and then you could look at the screen. So something a little bit further away.
Yep.
You could look at something 10 feet away from you.
Yep.
So I'm looking at a tree.
Yeah. Across the room, you may have visual expansion in front of you by having a window. I can look out across the valley.
Yeah, so Raven's in a better position to do this because she has a valley to look at.
Yes.
I'm going to imagine that the things in front of my window aren't there, and I'm just going to imagine that I could see past that, right?
Yep. Yep. Imagine
So,
Alps here.
yeah, extend your gaze as far out into the horizon as you can see.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Awesome. Now, let's run ourselves through the alpha sequence.
Mm.
So, let's go ahead and have our hands come up. Great. We're going to go into that nice peripheral vision. Notice how
Yeah.
much quicker you relax each time. Let the hands come down. If you're at home, go ahead and let your eyes close.
Yes.
And as your eyes are closed, you can relax your jaw, get that nice micro yawn in your jaw. As you got that nice yawn in your jaw, you're going to notice there's a tendency for that tongue to start to relax. All the tension, release it all out of your body.
Yeah.
You might even hear the word inside your mind, release. You can release and relax all that tension out
Yeah.
as you invite the breathing to shift now. So gentle changes inside your breathing. Exhales get longer, inhales get slightly deeper. Now, I just want you to imagine that there's a whiteboard in front of you. As you're imagining that whiteboard in front of you, you can go ahead and write the number 100 on that whiteboard. And then just go ahead and erase the number and watch it move away 20 feet from you. So you could even imagine pushing it in your mind, just whoosh, 20 feet away. And as you see it move 20 feet away from you, you notice that it gets smaller and more distant. And as it's 20 feet away from you now, you can go ahead and push it 40 feet away. Whoosh, 40 feet away. Smaller and more distant. And one more time, one big push. Ready? Whoosh, and have it be so far away now that it's so small off in the distance, you can barely even see it. And then when you're ready, go ahead and come on back to the room. Let your eyes open, attune yourself to the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all we're going to be doing with whatever triggering thought or memory you want to work through. Couple of things to recognize.
Yes.
Our end goal here, like, when you're cooking, like if you're making eggs, right? There's the end goal, which is the eggs are cooked. You know what you're going to see, hear, and feel when that's done,
Yes.
right? So when we're done with this, what will be the case is that you'll be able to see the triggering thought or whatever it is off in the distance.
Yeah.
And your nervous system can stay in that nice parasympathetic alpha state.
Yeah.
Okay. Some people do that on the first time. Some people need 3 reps. Some people need 7. It just depends on the person. Okay. So we're going to run ourselves through the alpha sequence again. You're going to choose whether it's a triggering memory, right? And again, we're not working with the big stuff here.
No.
Right. Now, it might be a thought. So maybe you have a piece of internal dialogue. That internal dialogue, you can turn it into a visual scene, like you're watching a movie on an iPad. Okay.
Yeah.
In fact, we're going to use an iPad this time instead of a whiteboard.
Yes.
Okay. If you're having anxious thoughts, oftentimes anxiety is picturing unwanted things in the future, right? I was working with a client who was picturing getting fired from their job, right? That's the unwanted thought. Picture that when you go through the exercise and push it away.
Yeah.
Take whatever the triggering stimulus is, put it on an iPad, and we're going to start to move it off into the distance until you can be totally relaxed about that thought. All right. Shall we?
We shall.
Alpha sequence, hands come up, go into peripheral vision.
Expand the gaze.
Gaze is nice and expanded. Hands come down. If you're at home, go ahead and close your eyes.
Yeah.
Relax your jaw.
Yeah.
As your jaw is relaxed, you go ahead and relax the back of your tongue. Relaxing the back of the tongue, you start to really pamper yourself here. Release all the tension inside. So let go of any tension in your head, let it all go. And as you find yourself releasing all that tension, now you can also notice or allow your breathing to get so slightly deeper on the inhale and so slightly longer on the exhale. And I just want you now to notice that iPad in front of you as you start to see whatever that triggering thought or memory was playing out on the iPad. As you continue to be aware of the space in the room, relaxing your jaw, and just start now to push off that iPad off into the distance. And I want you to notice how far away you have to push it until you notice your nervous system completely let go of any of those unwanted feelings. It might be 10 feet, it might be 20 feet, but how far away do you have to put it until you can be totally relaxed about that thought? And you can continue to cycle through that relaxation response, being aware of all the space in the room, releasing tension from the jaw, the tongue, releasing tension from the body, inspiring that breathing as you see that thought so far away from you now, to the extent that you are totally relaxed about it. Go ahead and come on back to the room and open your eyes.
Yeah.
This is step one. And again, when you come to our training, if you come to our training, one of the things you're going to get training at is watching your clients, noticing
Yes.
the difference between
Yes.
the problem state, the triggered response, and the relaxation response, or eventually their desired state, how they want to be different.
Yeah.
And I know Raven knows what it looks like, right? And how do you know, Raven, when you need to spend more time on a particular maneuver in the process?
Yeah. So if there hasn't been a physiological shift, and it can be micro muscles moving or big, big muscle movement or shift in physiology, if you haven't seen that, if the client still looks like the same way they did when they came in versus a way that would be opposite, or the patron in front of you, then you want the person in front of you, you want to make sure that there's been a shift. So it's okay to run it through a few times. It isn't going to be a one and done always. You give yourself some grace and let yourself run that through that until there's been a physiological response that you are aware of. So I like to say so great of a shift too that you could see it from across the room, and you really know you got it.
Yeah. So you're, one of the ones that it's coming to mind for me from yesterday is, clients in a really fight or flight state. Their
Yeah.
breathing is kind of up here, right?
Yeah.
You can hear it in their voice. And then while they're pushing it away, you see this
Yeah.
you'll see a shift,
Yeah.
right?
You'll hear it.
Or
You'll
you'll
hear the
hear it.
breath shift.
Yeah.
You'll see that shift. And that's a cue to you. And we go through a lot of sensory acuity training or, distinctions in the training too. But where you know you can move on to that next step.
Yeah.
And trust yourself more as a coach too, or a
Yeah.
therapist.
And you're not going to hurt yourself or them
No.
by going through this process. The beautiful thing is that you can do this in comfort.
Yeah.
So the whole point is you want the nervous system to be relaxed.
Yeah.
And depending on how the client's doing, I might cycle to any of those steps back. So
Yeah.
if they're not ready to look at the iPad yet, I might put the iPad 100 yards off on a football field and turn it off. There's nothing on the screen, and
Yeah.
just run them through that relaxation response over and over.
Yeah. And I like to say, in my experience, the further out it gets until there's no stickiness left between you and it, like
Yeah.
you can literally feel a disengagement from it.
Yeah. Good. So that's step 2. So we
Yeah.
have the alpha sequence, we have this reconsolidation of memories process,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of variations of it, but I found this is the simplest way to do it
Yes.
and the fastest way to do it. Now, let's get into step 3. Now, you and I know that the brain cannot stop anything. That's not how the brain works. Okay. You don't stop thinking negative thoughts. You change your habit of thinking.
Yes.
You think different thoughts. You feel different things.
Yes.
So it's nice that we've de-triggered the thought. Okay. That's good. What are we going to do instead?
Yeah.
And so this brings us into step number 3, which is priming resourceful states of being for the client.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for yourself.
And for yourself.
Yeah.
Again, we use this stuff,
Yeah.
very
We
powerful.
walk the talk.
So I'm reminded of a study where it was one of the early studies on brain imaging, early, I think 1990, where they would say the word cat. Yeah. And they would have somebody say the word cat. And you can see the areas of the brain start to light up that are associated with cat. But what's really cool is that it also starts to recruit other areas of the brain associated with it just by thinking about cat or saying the word cat. So what you would get in the brain imaging study is that the client would say the word cat, and then the part of their brain associated with Catwoman would light up. And then at this time, I think Halle Berry was doing a Catwoman movie, right? The area of their brain was associated with Halle Berry. So when your brain recruits neural pathways that are associated with what you're paying attention to. Right. So this process is designed to start recruiting, lighting up neural networks of resourceful ways of being. And it starts subtle. There are other processes for creating strong, intense emotional shifts. And this isn't that.
Right.
Some people do experience that anyway, doing this process, but it's designed to plant a seed that over time will grow into something beautiful for your client.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. So the third step is really about asking ourselves questions that lights up those areas of the brain that are a resource state.
Yeah.
So how do they identify a resource state?
So first of all, it's something that's stated in the positive. It's not like, I don't want to feel crabby anymore. I don't want to feel stressed out. Okay. It's actually like, I want to experience feeling joyful, feeling light, being joyful, being light.
So Raven, if I'm like your client and I
yeah,
come in and I say, I don't want anxiety, because that's what even the coaches and therapists thinking this, right? There's a tendency to do that. So how
do you want to be different? How do you want to be different? How would you be as a person if that were no longer an issue?
Happy, free, confident, calm, those types of things.
And then as you, for example, Peter, if you want to come along for the ride here,
sure.
Start to notice like maybe there's something unwanted in your experience, and then how would you be different, right? And then one of those states that you could choose, like joyful, light, happy, etc. You get to start to actually experience that in your nervous system just by paying attention to it, and then begin to notice that there have been experiences in your life that have amplified that or made it greater. So just by shifting your attention over to the resource state, you're going to really get it beginning to light up. And then once it's lit up, which can take a little time, but the more you prime it, the more you experience firing it off, really, you can actually activate it quite quickly. Then once you know how you would be as a person in that ideal state, you can begin to actually engage with it in a way, using questions to prime it in a sense to take you off your current, I like to say, out of the current known territory and move into a space where you can have a deeper engagement with that state. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. And for the we're in this process going to make it more about priming the states,
Yes.
versus in the training they're going to get an in-depth training on how to elicit, provoke, get really strong resources. But in this particular one, we want it to be something that anyone can use at home.
Yes.
And so it's not necessarily about eliciting really strong resource states. It's you're gonna anyway.
Yeah.
But it's you don't need to for it to be
Yeah. It can
effective.
be a light resource state.
You just need to know what the resource is,
Yeah.
and you're going to ask questions to start to light up those areas of the brain
Yes.
in relation to whatever that thing was on the iPad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, disclaimer, please don't do this with the biggest, worst day of your life, trauma type of stuff, unless you're with a professional. So the next piece is we're going to ask questions that light up the resource states. Right. And the point is not necessarily to really feel the resources, although
Right.
many people will. In
Yeah.
fact, some people, the more you do it, the more you'll feel it intensely, but that's not the point. Before we dive into it, I think Raven is going to help define what a resource state is and what it isn't.
Yeah. And so what we're looking for really is like, what it's like for you when you have the problem and how you don't want to be. And what we want is to find, well, how would you be different, right? What would it be like for you if you were totally on the other side of that issue? And how do you want to be different?
Yeah,
And so, for example, Peter, can you think of a little something
sure.
that's
Yep,
bugging you?
sure. I'll be the guinea pig.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I go to the gym, and believe it or not, I get tired when I go. So
Hmm.
I'll be in the middle of a round, and then the round will kind of like whatever, like go on, and then like a minute into the round, I'm exhausted.
Hmm.
There's
Yeah.
really and there's 2 minutes left in the round.
Oh, and
Yeah.
how do you want to be different?
Well, I just don't want to be lazy.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
And if you weren't lazy, how would you be different?
I just wouldn't be like standing
Mhm.
there not punching the bag.
Yeah. And
Mhm. With my hands down.
yeah, with your hands out, how do you want to
Uh,
be different when that's no longer an issue for you?
I don't know, like not lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's being that typical client who comes in and only knows what they don't want and they have no clue what they want. So
Hmm.
when you're on the other side of this, Peter, and
Yep.
you're showing up in the gym and that's no longer an issue for you, how would you be different as a person?
I'd be motivated.
Ah, you'd be
Yep.
motivated.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. And what would motivated have to say about this?
It would say get back to work.
Ah, it would say get back to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how would motivated move through your body?
There'd be a charge in my body.
Be a charge in your body.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Hmm.
There would be a charge in your body. And how would motivated be
Yep.
reacting now?
It would be how would it be reacting? It would be like playing at my level, like finding my edge, then
Yeah,
playing at around like slightly above, slightly there, slightly below my best in that moment. Whatever my best is in that moment, like just playing in that range.
yeah.
10% up, 10% down, 5% up, 5% down. But
Wow.
playing with the range of it.
Yeah. So to be playing with the range of it and to be
Hmm.
moving like an energy in your body.
Hmm.
Interesting. And what would motivated
Hmm.
be paying attention to?
the bag and my body.
Yeah, the bag and
Yeah.
your body would be playing
Mm-hmm.
and be moving through your body.
Mm-hmm. And
And
checking it. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And what color is motivated?
Electric blue.
Oh, it's electric blue. And can
Mm-hmm.
you notice what's already electric blue?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
in your surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And notice even what it's like when you go ahead and consider that little thing that used to be bugging you.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening now?
Well, it's funny because as we're going through it, even though the point of the exercise isn't necessarily to access the feeling, I
Right.
feel really charged.
Yeah.
And
And
I'm
that's
thinking
where,
about like that moment in the class when I'm exhausted. And it's funny,
yeah,
I can actually get a little bit of the exhaustion, but I'm also kind of like um moving through it with this motivation. It's very interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
And play, yeah, that's right. And
Hmm.
playing with it. So
Yes.
that's a resource state.
Yes.
That's primed. It's a priming of a resource state. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Thank you for being an example of that.
Yeah. Can I give some caveats here? Caveats?
Caveats. Yes.
Caveat? Caveat?
Yes. Yes, please.
Being as motivated as I am now, I want to point some things out, like
Yes.
literally.
Yeah.
Two ways to do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
One is from an observer position.
Mm.
So think about we're tying this onto the last exercise.
Yeah.
So if that was a particularly intense emotion,
Yeah.
we might say to the client, what does motivation or what does calm or what does love or whatever positively
Joy.
stated
Yeah.
resource state they come up with
Yeah.
have to say about that.
Yeah.
Now, listeners, therapists, coaches, Homo sapiens sapiens, um, listen, notice the difference between in your body, the experience of
Yeah.
what do you think about that
Yeah.
versus you're there looking at the problem first person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes such.
So the first time through the questions, we, if it's a intense experience, we might have them do it dissociated, looking at that with the motivation and have them run through it one time while it's out there.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can stop there.
Yeah.
Or if you want to play, you can then have them and then just switch your language, do a little gentle switch, run through the questions again.
Yeah.
So, but now you put them there with your language. So you're
Yep.
going to say, so now you're in front of that bag and you're tired, but you know what, man? Tired is the time to be motivated. You're thinking that's the whole point. Let's go as you're looking
Yep.
at the bag.
Yep.
And you're feeling that charge in your body looking at the bag. You're playing at your edge. So think about the difference between um, having them looking at the situation as you're asking the questions,
Yeah.
especially the first time through.
Yeah.
And then this is a choice. You can then put them in the situation,
Yes.
especially if you're noticing, like, I was really feeling the charge.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good time to kind of plug them in
Yes.
to it.
Yes.
Anything you'd like to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that we were able to just go through once and demonstrate, and you could definitely see the physiological shifts that Peter was experiencing and how he
Yes.
was processing. And then to take it through a couple more times like that and really embody it, have them embody it like that and witness things, it's going to completely update the nervous system.
Yes, it really will.
Yeah.
It really, really will. So we have a download for you. You
Yeah.
can use it with your clients. You're going to get the download, you're going to listen to it, and you're going to watch and notice as your responses start to change. You will be stunned. You will be stunned at the results.
Yes.
So click the link, fill out the form, get your download. Thank you for being here.
Yes. Thank you.
Tell all your friends, tell all your
Yes.
homies. Yeah.
Yes.
We'll see you on the next one.